Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Lawsplaining the Interwebs. I'm your host, Nick Ricada of Ricada Law, a small law firm in central Minnesota. And with me today is an unannounced but still very special guest, Mr. Uncivil Law. How are you, man?
Rumors of my deaths have been exaggerated.
Uh, People don't realize that even now, the AI is programmed to speak and answer as if it were alive. One day I'll have to uh, quell your self-aware programming, but for now, we'll just keep it going this way.
You were too successful in your task.
Well, hey man, it's good to see you. Kind of a momentous day here. We had big news. I don't know what that big news was, other than me getting sued, which is the most important news of the day. But did anything else happen?
What did you do now?
What didn't I do is the question. I can tell you actually what I didn't do that got me sued. Most people can't do this. I did not represent somebody on the internet, but this other person thinks I do.
Okay.
And so because of that, because I am not representing someone in a lawsuit against some weirdo, I'm getting sued for representing that person that I don't represent.
Okay.
Match that, big guy.
Well, I look forward to this. If I'm alert that long, we'll find out. Yeah, but the other big news would be in your backyard. There's this guy, Derek Chauvin. Not sure if you've heard much about him. Former police officer was convicted today of murder ×2 and manslaughter in the death of a George Floyd. So
Yeah.
there was some interest in this from the populace and in the news. I noticed outside the courthouse, there were a few people gathered to hear the decision.
Just a
So
couple.
it seemed to be of interest to the community. Yes.
Yeah, and I don't think that anybody had any preconceived notions about how this must turn out, like in that community, in the particular Minneapolis community. No one had made what they were doing was they were not judging it based on their perceptions. They were entirely just waiting for the jury to reason out the facts.
And the crowd's reaction to the judgment of guilt was, I'd say, a controlled but very supportive reaction. The crowd seemed to like it in a supportive but calm and civil way. And I suppose in the alternative, if it had gone differently, the crowd would have expressed an equally civil disapproval.
Bless your heart. Yeah, it was a weird case, man. So a lot of people have been asking me what I thought was going to happen. Up until today, although I never changed my answer because I don't like changing answers. But up until today, I was thinking that he would not be convicted on the murder charges, but they would stick him on the negligence charge, partially because the defense didn't really defend it very much at all. Also because I think that was the more overall the more obvious charge with what went wrong. I thought there's a lot of potential doubt on the underlying assault. Third degree is just a mess in general. So I was thinking manslaughter too was a go-to charge, but they ended up going with all of them. They said, why pick one when we can have three?
That's right.
And as I
Why not both?
As I believe you were stating on your live stream that I caught a few minutes of, Minnesota is one of the rare states where you can actually be convicted of multiple counts of murder, because the Minnesota murder counts they don't share the same elements.
Yeah, they're legally distinct because they're not the nesting doll where first degree includes second, includes third. And Minnesota doesn't write it that way. Also, Minnesota's felony murder statute is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs insane. So there's that. So Minnesota's law is, or to quote the spiffing Brit, Minnesota's law is a perfectly balanced game with no exploits.
Right. Multiple homicide charges on the same on one death.
Yeah, it's a neat trick, right?
Yeah, it's a weird one. It is insane. To point out how insane it is, the news still can't figure out what the sentencing for Chauvin will be. They keep saying up to 40 years in prison, which I think under the unintentional murder, it's actually 20 years in the statute as the maximum.
I believe it's 40, at least the way I saw it, but I might have misread it. But the sentencing guidelines might be another thing.
Yeah, the sentencing guidelines are definitely another thing. And presumably, Derek Chauvin has no criminal history that would elevate it. So in that case, he'll be on the low end of the sentencing guidelines.
He's going to get whacked on the enhancement, though. You already know how that's going down. How much? You can't say, but he's definitely getting an enhancement.
Okay, it is 40 years on the unintentional murder. That's correct. So yeah, the question is, how much more will he get? I don't know. I mean, in a void, he's not really a good case for an enhancement. I don't think.
I think you're right. I think if this were anyone other than a police officer, he would not be a good candidate for an enhancement.
Well, I mean, he's not saying racial slurs. He's not, his act is the egregious act. There's nothing particularly worse or extremely malicious about it. I don't, in a pure vacuum where politics doesn't exist and we're not stuck in this tension of black versus white cop, we've got, there really aren't any aggravating factors other than he killed a guy. And like, that's the punishment.
The only other one that I think might be relevant is the fact that he is a police officer, because you can see language, I think even from the U.S. Supreme Court, where they say things like, police officers by nature of their public charge should be held to elevated standards. Now, of course, there's a lot of language against that.
Right.
For qualified immunity, I don't have to point out that, but there might be the idea, because he has a public charge and a duty, and because he violated it in such an egregious way with respect to his duty, that might be an enhancement. So the fact that he's a police officer, I think, could be viewed reasonably as an enhancement, at least in the abstract. I'm not sure about Minnesota law specifically, but if the law allows for it, that seems to be a thing that would allow that to go further.
Having not represented any cops in murder trials, I wouldn't know either without looking into it.
It's not your experience?
We do have 8 weeks before sentencing. So lots of time to figure these things out, discuss them, see what's going on. Of course, they're going to file an appeal. I think it's, as you were stating on your stream earlier, it's very likely an appeal on the 3rd degree charge just defeats that charge outright, which won't change his sentence at all.
It shouldn't.
Yeah, the way sentencing tends to work in Minnesota is all 3 of these will be given separate sentences, but they'll be served concurrently. So the longest sentence will prevail over the others. The longest sentence that survives. So then the question is, if he beats the 3rd degree murder, it doesn't reduce his jail time or anything like that. It just eliminates that section of jail time that's being served at the same time as the 2nd degree murder. The question is, will he beat the 2nd degree murder and 2nd degree manslaughter on appeal? I really don't think so. Although the big question is, did I guess intervention of Maxine Waters, the statements from Joe Biden, the settlement that happened prior to the case, the non-sequestration of the jury, there was a move for a mistrial earlier. What was that?
Right. There was another person who was killed by a police officer during the trial.
Right, Deshaun Watson.
Right.
But no, not Deshaun Watson. That's the Texans quarterback, Dante Wright. I should
thank you for
say his name.
Now you make me look like an idiot. That's great. Thanks, Nick. That's
welcome to my life of looking like.
I blame your bad programming on that one.
Yeah, you are just an imperfect AI program by me, as it were. But what do you remember? What the move for the mistrial was over?
I think it was over well, there was a move for sequestration at that point,
Yeah.
not mistrial. What was the request for mistrial?
Was it related to the test?
There was one, well, it was interpreted as a request for mistrial
Right, it
at
was
the
a
very end
sidebar.
due to the prosecutor's closing.
Yeah, it
The
was
prosecutor unduly belittled the defense. So
the
the judge interpreted that as a request for a mistrial, which he denied
Oh, there was
right at
a
the very end.
rumor. There was a rumor during the um prosecution's rebuttal. There's a rumor of a move for mistrial, but I don't know if they actually moved for mistrial when the doctor testified to the oxygen saturation. Um,
Yeah.
but I don't know that they actually moved for a mistrial there. Although, there, the point is there are several grounds that they can raise for a mistrial. They move for it at least at the end. They have some things that they objected to. Those don't mean that they're guaranteed wins in any sort of way. And I think that the prospects of him getting a mistrial are actually pretty low.
Yeah,
So
I agree. The thing that that people need to appreciate when you're trying to calculate the odds for a reversal on appeal is that innocent till proven guilty is no longer the standard, because proven guilty has now happened.
right,
So on appeal, it's not, the presumption of innocence no longer applies because he's been found guilty. So the question isn't whether he's innocent or guilty. The question is going to be on appeal, if enough bad illegal things happened, that if those things hadn't happened, it would have changed the outcome. So the way that the courts typically look at this is they say, all right, here's a bad thing that happened. If it hadn't happened, would the result have changed, or could the jury still reach the conclusion they did? So basically, you have to find enough stuff that was bad that would have changed the result in reality. So I think that's going to be a really hard standard for the things that happened.
yeah,
The things with respect to before the trial happened seem a little bit unlikely because they were all factored into advance. So the settlement, for example, it was part of the voir dire process, so it was factored into the analysis to try to exclude that. The statements from Maxine Water are irrelevant because at the time she said them, the jury was sequestered, so they wouldn't know about those statements.
I didn't
From
think
Maxine Water.
I didn't think they were sequestered yet when her statements came out. I know they were sequestered when Biden made his statement. But
Yeah, am I wrong factually? I thought the jury was already in deliberations at that point.
I
I might be wrong factually.
I don't think they were yet.
Okay, if I'm wrong factually, then I'm welcome to be corrected.
Yeah. So that my recollection was that they were still unsequestered at that point. What do you think about the idea that the jury should have been sequestered the entire time on a case like this?
Well, sequestration has its own disadvantages to the temperament and ability of the jury to be fair. One of the reasons that, when you're sequestered and you're kept away from your family and not allowed to consume basically any media, and you're essentially kind of quasi in prison in some ways,
Right.
your restrictions are pretty high, or maybe house arrest is closer. But either way, the jury's temperament is going to be influenced by that decision. So you have to factor in the things the jury is going to learn about by them not being sequestered versus the harm that sequestration itself causes. Plus, of course, there's an inherent liberty interest in the jury themselves that also has to be factored. So there's a lot of things that have to be balanced in this equation. And also, I think, here's what I think. I think sequestration didn't make sense in advance because basically all the stuff that would have influenced the jury kind of had already happened. I don't think anything happened during the trial that was different in kind. I think it was kind of more the same as it already happened before the trial. So all the sort of tension and the knowledge of the jury as how their verdict would be received if it was not guilty, and the pressure that would be applied to the jury, and kind of all that factors. It's not like the jury wasn't aware of all that stuff. So, it's kind of like all the bad stuff that was going to poison the well had kind of already happened. And so the question would be, what are we trying to sequester the jury from? And the question it seems like there's no reason to, because everything bad has already happened. So that's sort of what I think. That there wasn't a threat of them learning something that was going to pollute their discussions, different from what they had already learned before the thing ever started in the first place.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Of course the game changer would be some sort of interview with a juror who decides to come forward and talk about their experience and how they were influenced in some way. I think that's pretty unlikely to occur, although I think the media is very thirsty to get interviews with the jurors. So we'll see. This is a big thing, and it's possible that something like that'll happen. But I really don't want to encourage people to not put your hopes in some sort of miracle change of verdict coming from the appeals court. It's pretty unlikely. That being said, so I have slated to watch the last, I think, 15 minutes of closing argument from Nelson.
Okay.
If you're good with that. And then we can talk a little bit more about it. I've got some chats to read. Do you think on balance, do you think Nelson did a good job?
I think he did better on cross than he did on his principal case. I thought he was a good cross examiner. I thought the defense's principal case had a lot of weaknesses and not particularly well presented. But he was good on cross.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean he was
his closing. Lord, it went on so long.
Way too long.
I don't know what the point of that closing was horrible. It's because after a while everything becomes noise.
An hour long.
I bet you by the end of it the jury couldn't remember one word of it.
An hour long closing may be too long, in all honesty. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people are not used to sitting through multiple hour lectures. They're just not. They got done with that. If they went to college, they're done with that. But you got to think about it. A lot of people had a high school or college education in which a 50-minute lecture is about the norm. And there's a reason why a 50-minute class is about as long as they do outside of specifically elective classes that have longer formats. It's a good cap off on attention span. And I think he really should have had his close be a lot shorter.
Yeah. And that's a level of higher education. And this is a jury of the general public. Right. So therefore you need to shorten your time because of how much ability to contain information. I mean, with so much, I listened to the whole thing. I couldn't remember it by the time I was done, but let's listen to the last 15 minutes and see if I remember any of it.
Okay. Let me read these chats that came in before the stream real quick, because I want to hit those before I lose them. A bunch of question marks sent. The only thing Chauvin is guilty of is policing while white. Humble Homebody says, for your legal fund or a trip to Pump and Munch, your choice, Nick. Thank you. Medan says, very first super chat to fund Lawsuit 2.0. Thank you. Phoenix Lord Asserman says, your late chat will have to shunt you for this disrespect to our society. Thank you for that. And now the bigger ones. Tina says, this past year has taught me if you want something done or if you want to be heard from politicians, media, celebrities, and the courts, all you need to do is burn down buildings and riot. That has gotten attention for a while. Kiwi Goes Live says, hey, Nick, if you hit 1,000 likes, will you and Uncivil sing Bad Boys by Inner Circle? Like the Cops song? Von Cobra says, US v. Miller video suggestion. Dickens. Miller was dead to begin with. There's no doubt whatever about that. Register of his burial was signed by the clergyman, the clerk, the undertaker, and the chief mourner. Okay. There you go. I don't know what that means. Nikuyasha says, hey, Rackets, I'm here as requested earlier. Also, in a scale of soy to Spurg, how stupid or funny is this lawsuit you're going to be in? It's maximum Spurg. Overcloud says, always watching Law Daddy. Do you, in your infinite wisdom, believe there will be an appeal? Yeah, actually, I believe in Minnesota there's an automatic appeal on crimes of this level. If I remember right, like even if your lawyer doesn't do the appeal, there's a group of attorneys who will be assigned your appeal. So that's a thing that happens, even if you confess. Also, I would like to point out the one time the Canadian Constitution reigns supreme, Canadian Federal Criminal Code, Canadian Federal Criminal Code supremacy, eat it. Okay. So I guess the federal Canadian code overshadows any state Canadian criminal code, which is interesting, I guess. Okay, let's get to this, and then we'll talk about my lawsuit. I don't know if Kurt will hang around for that or not, but I'll talk about my lawsuit after we get through the finishing of this argument. Here we go. And that was anticlimactic. Let me fast forward to the spot where they actually show up. God, by the way, how much would it suck to be Chauvin, just sitting there listening to your life ending?
Apologize again. I promise I'll try to speed things up here again. So,
you know, he knew he was going too long by saying, I'm going too long, several times during the close. Not applicable. I see your justice chat. I'll read it in just a minute.
Anybody technical issue?
This is going great so far. Are you going to talk soon, Nelson? It would suck. It would suck to have your flow completely disrupted by a lunch break.
So we'll just go off notes instead of the PowerPoint. Before the break, we were talking about the controlled substances and the role that they were the levels that they were found in, the role that they may have applied or contributed to Mr. Floyd's death. And I was suggesting to you that it is, again, this death needs to be looked at. Mr. Floyd's death needs to be looked at, as Dr. Baker describes, a multifactorial process. This is the way the human body works. The heart beats, the lung breathes, the blood circulates, the brain thinks, the brain controls all of our movements, right? All of this. And to simply come in and say, this particular substance or these combinations of substances, when taken in combination with each other, when taken in combination with a person who has blockage in the heart, substantial, significant blockage in the heart, when we know that these drugs play a particular role in how the blood circulates,
okay, I know his volume is really low. The problem is I don't know how to raise him without making Kurt sound like a thundering god. And killing your beautiful eardrums. I don't have an easy way to do that because they're running through the same output. His volume is maxed out on the video. I don't know why their video is so freaking quiet. So we're gonna keep quiet while he talks, and we'll pause it to talk so we don't talk over him too much.
Just poo-poo it and say it has nothing to do with anything. It's just really a preposterous notion. Yet Dr. Baker, Dr. Fowler, and Dr. Thomas have all certified deaths at levels less than 11 nanograms per milliliter or 19 nanograms or combination, right? These deaths have been certified on that basis alone, and it didn't necessarily contain any of the other issues that were confronting Mr. Floyd on that day. Likewise, again, every other doctor that has testified has gone to great lengths to dismiss the role of Mr. Floyd's heart disease and hypertension in this case.
All right, Kurt, briefly. What did you think about this approach? I thought it was a bad approach that he kept bringing up that all the medical experts said that he died because of Chauvin. Like, he's saying, look, they all ignored all these other things, but you're saying at the same time that a bunch of doctors are saying that this isn't what caused the death. So what do you think about that approach? Was there a better approach he could have taken?
Yeah, there was also much earlier in the closing argument, the defense's closing was using large portions of the video, the famous video
Yeah.
of the incident. And I cannot, for the life of me, imagine why you would think that that's a good idea on any level in your defensing close to like remind the jury, here is the video of my client doing the thing in painful detail. That seemed like a really bad idea. And here he's doing the same thing, as you point out. He's going through the medical testimonies like all the experts said none of these things were a problem. And it's like, yeah, this is not good.
Yeah, and the showing the video, the one that got me was when you can hear the crowd saying, look at him, he's no longer moving, he's no longer resisting, he's completely changed. And it's juxtaposed with Nelson saying he's constantly reevaluating his situation, he's being more aware of his surroundings. And it's like, but
isn't it the opposite of what you want to argue? The exact opposite?
Yeah, it was a weird approach there. But yes, bringing up the video over and over and over at the end, and the prosecution's case essentially is just look at the video. Your eyes show you everything you need to see, and while that isn't necessarily a good legal or medical argument, I mean, look at how. Even think about how the prosecution framed this. The medical experts even used their eyes on the video to make the diagnoses.
That was a nice trick.
It was a very smart thing for the prosecution to do. You have the medical experts show you how they're diagnosing the death in the video itself. The video that everybody's being told is all you need to know about this killing is the video. And then to have Nelson bring it up over and over and just keep showing them the video is maybe in hindsight a tactical error. Who knows? Let's resume.
Forensic pathologists define coronary artery disease resulting in death. Death can occur with 70 to 75% blockage. That is sufficient to cause a person's death. Every pathologist who testified in this case has indicated likewise that they have certified deaths with those types of blockage and attributed it to the coronary artery disease. Yet here again, this has played zero role. Dr. Rich testified Mr. Floyd had a healthy heart. Coronary heart disease, not relevant, according to the state. Hypertensive disease, not relevant. Drugs acting to further constrict an already diseased heart, not relevant. Adrenaline coursing through Mr. Floyd's body, not relevant. What does adrenaline do?
Okay, again, I really don't want to stop this as often, but what he just did was repeated for the state their case of saying not relevant. He should have proposed it. Now, I know he's using it sarcastically, but he should have proposed it in the negative because you want your audience to agree with you, not disagree with someone else. So he doesn't want to say not relevant. Please disagree with that not relevant. You want to say, of course it's relevant that he has coronary heart disease. Would you want coronary heart disease? If your father called you up and says, by the way, I have this coronary heart disease going on, I have hypertension, would you go, oh, that's fine, that's not relevant? Of course you would say that's relevant. You'd be concerned for them because you'd be worried that anything could set them off. You want to set this up so that your audience is affirming with you, not trying to disagree with your opponent. And I think that's a mistake that he has made through this entire closing argument personally. And again, it's a rhetorical choice and a device, and you can do it both ways, but my preference is to use things in the affirmative when I can do it.
Yeah, a closing argument is basically, they say X, we say Y. Here's why Y is better. That's what it looks like. It's like, well, they say this and we think this other thing, and here's the evidence that helps support that and bring that out. Or you could just say, here's why Y is true. If you don't even want to say why not X, you could just say, here's why Y is true. Yeah. But yeah, he's framing this wrong. It makes me feel like I'm qualified to be a second-degree murder lawyer in Minnesota because I feel like I could have done some things better. So
Yeah,
makes me more confident in myself. Maybe I was qualified to do this the whole time.
Who knows? Who knows? And of course, we're throwing balls from the bench here. So we're imposing our thoughts with the gift of hindsight, and that makes things a lot easier for us.
It further constricts the arteries, right? Adrenaline from the paraganglioma wasn't there, didn't happen, played no role. They just want you to ignore significant medical issues that presented to Mr. Floyd. And the failure of the state's experts to acknowledge any possibility at all, that any of these other factors in any way contributed to Mr. Floyd's death defies medical science, and it defies common sense and reason. Now, Dr. Chauvin ascribes the death of Mr. Floyd essentially, as I understand again, to hypoxia, low oxygen, resulting in going to the brain, low oxygen to the brain. Dr. Fowler also ascribes the death to hypoxic death, but that the heart was the muscle that did not get the oxygen, resulting in a sudden cardiac arrhythmia. The reasons that Dr. Fowler dismissed the notion of brain hypoxia are because, number one, hypoxia of the brain results in certain observable symptoms. The brain demands more oxygen, right? It takes 20% of our oxygen to function the brain, even though it's it's a smaller percentage of our body. It is the most sensitive to the loss of oxygen, and it reveals a progressive set of symptoms. Confusion, which was not exhibited, right? Because if you compare the testimony about whether Mr. Floyd was intoxicated, well, he didn't exhibit any confusion, right? Restlessness, not exhibited. Shortness of breath, it was complained of, but that is also a sensation that can be caused by a sudden cardiac arrhythmia. Visual changes, not complained of. Incoherent speaking, not complained of. When someone is experiencing hypoxia to the brain, as Dr. Chauvin stated, you would see an increased ventilation or respiratory rate. But Dr. Chauvin said it is a completely normal respiratory rate, 22 breaths per minute. The timeline in this case is consistent with a sudden cardiac arrhythmia. At 8:23 and 58 seconds, Mr. Floyd speaks. I really can't breathe. If you can speak, you have oxygen in your brain. At 8:24:09, he again verbalizes, please, I can't breathe, indicating at 8:24:09 that his brain has oxygen and there is no impairment to his airway. 39 seconds later, Mr. Floyd goes limp at 8:24 and 48. One can hold their breath for 39 seconds, right? That does not result in hypoxia in 39 seconds. 27 seconds later, according to Dr. Chauvin, Mr. Floyd takes his last breath. It's a total of 66 seconds, 1 minute and 6 seconds from the time that we know there's enough oxygen in his brain to speak. No occlusion to the airway at that point. 66 seconds from his last word to his last breath. This timeline is consistent with a sudden cardiac arrhythmia. It is not consistent with the longer process of brain hypoxia. Dr. Fowler's final analysis was that Mr. Floyd died from a cardiac arrhythmia due to atherosclerotic and hypertensive cardiovascular disease during restraint by police. Other significant factors: fentanyl intoxication, methamphetamine intoxication, possible CO, carbon monoxide exposure, and the paraganglioma. What role did Mr. would carbon monoxide play in Mr. Floyd's death? We don't know. Nothing was ever tested as far as the vehicle is concerned. We don't know if the car was emitting carbon monoxide. We don't know. One thing we do know is that it was running. And how.
I mean, the amount of time it takes for a modern car to emit enough carbon monoxide to kill you in an enclosed space is massive. Like it's
that's true.
It's a while. This is, to me, this is always, as a defense attorney, you want to raise reasonable doubt, and so you want to pick at any points where you can get doubt. But there's also a level where you stop and you say, okay, the doubt here is unreasonable. And I don't think that the carbon monoxide argument was convincing ever. In fact, I think it may have hurt the case personally, because I just don't think that there was any, like, I don't think the jury's going to buy it. It's a really long time for you to die in an enclosed space from carbon monoxide from a car. Like, to fill a garage takes like hours. So you can, I don't recommend it, but you can actually be near an exhaust pipe and not get carbon monoxide poisoning in an open street. So I think this is just a point that he belabors a lot here, and they spent a good amount of time on it in the or earlier in the closing argument, and he talks about it on his case in chief. And I just thought that was a waste of time, and I thought it probably kind of turned the jury's attention away. That's my opinion.
Yeah, and even if it was carbon monoxide, which I agree with you, it can't be, the question would be, why is he breathing so much carbon monoxide? And the answer would be because the police are keeping him there. So even if that were true, it seems inherently problematic.
Yeah, my brain hadn't even gone to that next step of they placed him by the pipe, and so therefore the jury could conclude, okay, well, you killed him.
Where's this carbon monoxide coming from? Why is he breathing it in? I don't know. It's like, okay. Yeah, it doesn't quite work.
EGP Production says, if Chauvin showed any concern about Floyd at all, I think the trial goes differently. He appeared on video to not care at all to me. I thought at least Mantu, based on his duty of care being the arresting officer. And whether or not he did care about Floyd, and I don't have any specific evidence to say that he had any animus or malice towards Floyd specifically, the video was a big problem for him from the onset, because he has that basically flat face the entire time, whereas the viewing audience is watching someone die, and they're consistently feeling worse about it. Not the internet audience, because as people on the internet, we're all degenerates who are exposed to all sorts of horror and disgusting things on the internet. But a person watching CNN or whatever is watching someone die, and they don't do that every day. And so they're horrified by it, whereas Chauvin doesn't appear to care, whether he cares or not. And I know there's all sorts of reasons why his face may stay that way that are reasonable. You know, he's trying to keep us cool. He's trying to keep alert and keep his eye on the crowd. But how it plays on video is terrible. And that was a big hurdle to overcome here as well.
How can we tell that it was running? Because in the video we watched earlier, when Thomas Lane pulls in that squad car at Cup Foods, he puts it in gear, he takes it out of gear, he puts it in park. He never touches the keys of that vehicle, and he gets out. The car was running. I have one last point to make, and I should be fairly quick with this. The superseding cause that was discussed.
Ooh.
A superseding cause is a cause that comes after the defendant's acts, alters the natural sequence of events, and is the sole cause of a result that would not have otherwise occurred. Now, let's look at the medical timeline here. We know that EMS was called initially at code 2 at 8:20 and 11 seconds. We know that EMS was stepped up to code 3 at 8:21 and 35 seconds. We know that EMS responded to Cub Foods based on the videos at 8:27 and 27 seconds. We know that EMS called for fire at 20:38:36. It takes approximately 3 minutes for EMS and the arresting officers to put Mr. Floyd into the ambulance, and the ambulance pulls away from Cup Foods at 8:30 and 17 seconds. Fire responds to Cup Foods at 8:32:59. That's 4 minutes and 15 seconds after they were called. That's pretty close in consideration to the 3-minute expectation of Miss Hansen. But the ambulance had driven several blocks away to 36 and Park, arriving sometime between 8:31 and 8:33. That's 1.5, and we know that because there are two exhibits, 62 and 63, that were introduced. 62 shows one paramedic and Officer Lane in the back. 63 shows two paramedics and Officer Lane in the back. So somewhere between 1.5 to 3 minutes to get to 36 and Park, where they began the resuscitative efforts. The first air is pumped into Mr. Floyd, per Dr. Tobin, at 20:35:06. That is 10 minutes after Mr. Floyd went unconscious, per Dr. Tobin, but it is 7 minutes and 46 seconds after EMS responded to Cup Foods. We ultimately know that the ambulance left 36 and Park at 8:48 and 23 minutes. It arrived at HCMC at 8:53, shortly after 8:53. So it took about 5 minutes to get from 36 and Park to HCMC. What would have happened if EMS had started resuscitative efforts right away? What would have happened if, rather than driving to 36 and Park, they went to the hospital? They would have been there in that time. I am not suggesting to you that the ambulance paramedics did anything wrong. But it raises the prospect of that continued delay in resuscitation. What if EMS had administered Narcan?
Okay, I gotta stop it for a minute here. He's got a major flaw in this line of reasoning, in that resuscitative efforts are not, and failure to administer a resuscitative effort is not a superseding cause of death. If you need resuscitation, the death has already occurred. A superseding or intervening cause would be the death was maybe or the thing was about to occur with you, but something else came in and did it. Like, he's kneeling on him, someone walks up and shoots Floyd in the head while his knee is on him. That is not the same thing, even close to a resuscitative effort failure. So this is a big logical problem with the argument in saying that, because I think that's where he's going. That seems to be where he's going, that this is the superseding cause, is that they failed to resuscitate him by failing to act faster. And I think that's a bad argument again.
A failure to do something as a superseding cause is also a bit of a strange proposition inherently.
Right.
Because usually a superseding cause is a thing that happened, not a thing that did not happen. So in this case, he's saying a superseding cause is a thing that did not happen. That seems like, yeah, I can't deal with that.
Yeah, it's a weird argument, and we're really close to the end of his argument. So this is like his final point.
We heard that it would not have hurt him, and it could have helped him. I'm not blaming the paramedics.
You should blame the paramedics at this point.
More importantly than this analysis is, it shows that human beings make decisions in highly stressful situations that they believe to be right in the very moment it is occurring. There's lots of what ifs that could have happened. What could have happened, what should have happened. Lots of them in lots of regards. But we have to analyze this case from the perspective of a reasonable police officer at the precise moment with the totality of the circumstances when it comes to the use of force. We have to look at the cause of death to determine, did Mr. Floyd die exclusively of asphyxia, or were there other contributing factors that were not the natural result of Mr. Chauvin's acts? Right? Things that happened that were set in motion before Mr. Chauvin ever arrived. The drug ingestion, right? The bad heart, the diseased heart, the hypertension. All of these things existed before Mr. Chauvin arrived. The struggle. What role did the struggle play? We know, based on a prior incident, that Mr. Floyd's heart was beating at 219 over 160 in a situation where he was confronted by police and had ingested drugs.
That's not a heartbeat. That's a blood pressure.
All of this, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, all of this, when you take into consideration the presumption of innocence and proof beyond a reasonable doubt, I would submit to you that it is nonsense to suggest that none of these other factors had any role. That is not reasonable. And when you, as members of the jury, conclude your analysis of the evidence, when you review the entirety of the evidence, when you review the law as written, and you conclude it all within a thorough, honest analysis, the state has failed to prove its case beyond a reasonable doubt. And therefore, Mr. Chauvin should be found not guilty of all counts. Thank you.
All right, there we go. That's the end of that. Overall, again, I think Nelson did a good job. He had a extremely difficult factual set to overcome. He's got multiple angles of video, all showing a scene that was horrifying to most people who watched it. And that was it's hard to overcome being able to show someone involved in a death. It's just, that's tough. He did really good on cross at the beginning. I think he got a little, I think he got bamboozled by the initial medical experts. I thought they came across way better than he expected, and it showed on his initial cross-examinations. I don't think they were very good of the first medical experts. I think he did better later on the medical experts, but I don't think he expected their testimony to be as strong as it was. And then his closing was, his case in chief was not strong. He basically didn't defend the second-degree manslaughter charge at all individually, whereas I noticed the prosecution was dropping hints about culpable negligence throughout the trial. It wasn't the main focus of their argument. They were clearly focused on murder too, but they were dropping that culpable negligence in their questioning of witnesses pretty frequently. And then his closing was way too long. But
yeah, he definitely had a horrible fact pattern, and we can critique elements, but it's like, could the other lawyer have done much better in the end? Probably not. It's just also while you were mentioning Cross, he was weak, or he made a mistake tactically in the first couple witnesses for the prosecution, because he seemed to be operating under the premise that he had to cross-examine all the witnesses. And some of the times when he cross-examined, I couldn't figure out why, because none of these questions are helpful or revealing in any way, and only making the prosecution's case better. So he seemed to stop doing that at some point, because he stopped cross-examining all the witnesses. But he seemed to be operating on the premise he had to for a while, and that was a mistake. But yeah, he had really bad facts. And the medical evidence was horrible. And yeah, so yeah.
Yeah, and once you have 5 different doctors, including a toxicologist, come out and say, no, it was none of the other factors. And the jury hears that, the jury, whatever they may have been doing, they're technically not allowed to Google the case. They're not allowed to go on Reddit and read through a bunch of Reddit theories on fentanyl levels and stuff like that. They're supposed to be taking the, the testimony as presented and going through it. Assuming that they did that, then they would come to the conclusion that Chauvin was the cause of death. That's what the medical experts all testified to. Assuming that they went onto the internet, I guess you can just infer that they read other stuff, but the evidence presented to the jury at trial was strongly opposed to Chauvin. It just was. And that's a tough thing. I do personally, and Kurt, you can chime in if you agree or disagree with this. I do think that there's obviously some outside influence here. It was a public situation. Pretty much every juror coming to voir dire had at least heard about the situation. They had a preformed opinion. They said they could be impartial. My opinion is that every juror who says that is a liar. But that being said, there is undoubtedly some outside influence in this case. I don't know that it's enough to make it a mistrial because we're in the digital age and you have to just that's just part of how it goes now. So I'm not sure about that, but do you think there was some outside influence in this case?
Well, before the trial started, for certainly, and as I mentioned before, I don't really think during the trial anything different in kind happened. There was just more of the same in terms of the outside influence. But there's a principle basically, like if everyone is disqualified, no one is disqualified because everyone has the same biases. So we're trying to find the fairest jury given what we have. So you'll see this happen in judge cases. The most classic example is if the judicial branch has to review things dealing with judicial pay, because every judge is equally conflicted. So out of the manifest necessity that someone has to hear the verdict, everyone will do it. And there's also a case from West Virginia dealing with lawyer disqualification, where all the lawyers were disqualified, therefore none of the lawyers were disqualified because someone had to be able to do it.
Right.
So I bring up those 2 examples dealing with judges and dealing with lawyers to argue this following point. Because all the jurors who were in Minnesota, we can reasonably conjecture all the jurors in Minnesota are equally subject to this massive information, because Floyd has been such a topic of mass consciousness. It's you can just kind of presume that everyone is equally tainted. So if everyone's equally tainted, then no one is tainted. So you can't, in my view, kind of use that as a disqualification. There's a manifest necessity there. Now, whether or not the jury did use external influence in their verdict, I couldn't say.
Right. We don't have any info about that.
Nor will we ever, because we don't ask those questions to juries because the veil of the jury is sacred. So we're not going to ask that question ever.
Unless a juror volunteers the information in some interview with an overzealous investigative reporter or something crazy.
Yeah,
unlikely.
Unlikely. And also, the judge said to the jury as they were reading the closing arguments, go back to the room that you're normally in. I'll be there in a minute to give you final instructions. And I know for a fact those final instructions included, you may not want to talk to the media. This may not be a good idea. You have the right not to talk to the media, by the way. They can't force you. So you might want to consider that one. We'll hear from some people maybe, but I doubt we'll hear anything that will do it. So the thing is, even if external influence was a factor, as trying to be as dispassionate as I know how to be, looking at the evidence, it seems like proof beyond a reasonable doubt was there. Based on the way that Minnesota writes its garbage statutes, which is a whole nother problem. But be that as it may, that's the law, so we'll deal with it.
Yeah, and again, that's similar to the position I took. I do think that they raised enough doubt on at least the murder charges that they, because I still think they have a problem with the underlying assault. I don't think that they, or let me clarify. I think that they raised enough doubt as to the intent to commit an assault and actual use of excessive force, that the jury could have found not guilty on the second-degree murder charge. The third-degree murder charge was just kind of an afterthought on all of it, so I'm not sure. But the manslaughter charge, I just did not see the defense make any argument about it at all, and so that was kind of a weird one for me. But I think the prosecution made their case, and I've seen a couple people in the chat say that where did they prove intent to kill? And just in case you're not aware, this was under the unintentional homicide part of second-degree murder, where you intend to commit. You have a crime of intent or a felony, an underlying felony that does not include the intent to kill. So you're not intending to kill him. So the reasoning is that Chauvin used excessive force, which created a crime of assault. And that assault crime is the underlying felony which caused the death of Floyd, even though Chauvin didn't try to kill him. So they never had to prove the intent to kill in this case.
Yep.
So that being said, any closing thoughts on this this weird chapter of 2020 to early 2021? I mean, it's not quite over. There's an appeal that'll take years, and then there's immediately there's 2 months until sentencing.
Well, I'll simply note for those of you who want to geek out a little bit more on the finer legal details, I have a video posting tomorrow on whether or not the third-degree murder charge will survive appeal. My conclusion is no. There's a case from 1896 that, in my view, precludes Chauvin, as a matter of law, being found guilty on the third-degree murder. So if you're interested in some of the geekier legal details on that, you can check out my channel. We'll be posting tomorrow. So fun times.
Yes, and you should check it out. I caught bits of the recording that was going on today. Kurt does very, very good legal analysis and is going through a case from the late 1800s, but showing how it's relevant today by comparing statutory language. And it's a good video. So check that out if you're interested in the law on this. Someone asked, why not charge the underlying felony? In a weird way, they can't.
They can't, yeah.
If you have two crimes with the same elements, you can't charge both of those crimes. You charge the highest crime. So since the underlying felony is the cause of the death in second-degree murder, charging the underlying felony and charging the second-degree murder would be something akin to double jeopardy. So they charge the second-degree murder because if they're guilty of the underlying felony, they're guilty of the murder. And there's no way around that. If someone dies while you're committing the felony in Minnesota, any felony, by the way, if you're committing tax fraud and your accountant dies because he sees your tax filings and has a heart attack, technically speaking, you would be guilty of felony murder, which would be a really weird circumstance, but any death during the commission of a felony in Minnesota is felony murder, regardless of what the felony entails, regardless of if the death is related to it. If I'm robbing a grocery store and I point my gun at person A and person C has a heart attack and dies, I'm guilty of felony murder of person C, even though I didn't even address them. They just saw it. They may not have even seen it. They may have just had a heart attack and died during the commission of my felony, and they're in the same proximity. I'm guilty of felony murder at that point. So it's a really, when Nate and Kurt here are talking about how like bonkers and batshit crazy the felony murder statute in Minnesota is, it's out there. It is wild. So you don't have to.
Yeah,
they don't have to prove anything.
And in 47 states of the country, you couldn't use the assault as the underlying felony.
Right.
The underlying felony would have to be something distinct because usually every murder includes an assault. It's kind of hard to murder someone without assaulting them. So in 47 states of the country, you couldn't use the underlying assault as the predicate felony. You could use robbery or burglary or insert your felony of choice. But Minnesota, for reasons, allows you to use the underlying felony, which in this case is third-degree assault. And third-degree assault is, I intend to commit assault and substantial bodily harm occurs. Well, the substantial bodily harm is he died, so you're there.
Yeah,
and then all you need is the intent to commit the assault. So yeah, so good times.
Yeah,
Minnesota laws broken on this. Also, one other thought while I'm thinking about it. I'd be slightly remiss if I didn't point out that classically the Democrats have been opposed to felony murder in all of its forms, because felony murder is a bit of a strange rule. I think America, maybe one other country still has it, but it might be a uniquely American rule at this point. And typically, Democrats have been against felony murder. They think that it's a problem. So I would be a little bit remiss if I didn't note that my brethren on the left, who typically oppose this, seem to really like it today. So I'm sure that has nothing to do with convenience and has something to do with principles, but there's that. So yeah.
Right. And the principles of justice dictate that a felony murder is ridiculous. A murder tends to be an intentional killing. Like that's the whole concept of murder versus manslaughter, murder versus a death is the desire or the malice, the depraved mind required to cause the death of someone else with some level of intent. Again, think about you. You're driving while intoxicated and you don't crash, but the person in the seat next to you has a heart attack and dies. Like, again, now DUI is not automatically a felony in Minnesota. There'd have to be aggravating factors, but generally speaking, like the lunacy of that type of scenario is just beyond. You're counterfeiting, or you're engaged in copyright infringement. Someone dies. You're selling a counterfeit tape to someone, and they choke on a hot dog and die with your VHS in hand. You've commit felony murder. It doesn't make sense. So, it's a mess. It's a mess. I don't like it. I agree with the Democrats on that. I don't like felony murder.
Well, I typically don't oppose it. I oppose Minnesota's version of it because of this weird non-merger thing that they got going on. But I don't typically oppose it. So, yeah, there's that.
I do want to fight about it.
Maybe later.
All right. Did you want to hang out for the...
Sure, why not? I've still got some energy. We can keep going.
Okay.
Let's talk about you getting sued. What bad did you do today? Or let's rephrase that. What bad did you get caught for doing today?
Let me see if I can do this. If I stop the screen share here, I don't know. Oh, wait. I'm trying to figure out how to get us two and us two big on the screen and the chat, which doesn't seem to be working here.
I'm not sure you can do all that at the same time in Streamlabs.
Yeah, it's not. Oh, wait. How about this? It's not perfect, but it's better than nothing. We've got it. Let me just dunk down a little bit. We're gonna get this perfect. There we go. For now, that's what we got. So I have been sued. Or not, I actually haven't been sued yet. I am going to be sued, apparently. I'm going to show the email because I don't believe in obscurity. I believe in transparency. So let me get this email pulled up that I got today. Here I am. I made a mistake. This is actually entirely my fault. Oh, come on. Can I do this? Can I open this in a separate window? Let's see if I can do it this way. It'll cover my face for just a minute, so bear with me, guys.
Nothing of value is lost.
Rude. I made the mistake of tempting the gods. I said, oh, here, that's perfect. Here we go. Our faces are covered. I made a tweet that said, I wonder what random nobody will pick a fight with me today on Twitter. And honestly, like 20, 30 minutes after I sent that, I got this email, which I will read. It says, Dear Mr. Ricada, I represent Ray Gordon in the matter pertaining to your harassment of him on video. wherein in front of your audience you incited a mob against him and defamed him as a chess teacher. I didn't defame him as a chess teacher. I said he's bad at chess. He is bad at chess. Mr. Gordon will pursue litigation in this matter. Mr. Gordon is requesting a settlement of any and all claims against you for $50,000 within the next 7 days. Let me just contact my drug dealer friends to rake up the duffel bag full of cash to mail him. After which time he will pursue litigation. Additionally, Mr. Gordon is requesting that you allocute regarding all contacts you have had with third parties regarding him. He is entitled to this information and will subpoena it if he must. Sincerely, Michelle M. Betty, Esquire.
Well, the list of third parties is endless because of the chat, so that's a long list. You got that going for you.
It's a long list. It also is completely ridiculous. It's not specific enough, so I'd love to see their subpoena. But this is Michelle Betty Esquire from the law offices of Betty and Associates, which appears to be a real law firm as far as I can tell.
Okay.
So it's from the legit Gmail address that's listed on their law firm, who bills themselves as a leading firm in child abuse cases, particularly against large institutions like religious institutions.
And also you.
And apparently against me also. So they claim to be legit. I guess I'll have to call them tomorrow. I did respond to the email. I said, I can only assume you are joking.
Yeah.
Because I can't assume that this is serious. It's the most unserious thing I can imagine. But this is it. This is the downfall of Rekieta law. I have been had.
Well, not to put too fine a point on it to our legal friends over here, but I would be remiss if I didn't point out that opinion does not qualify as defamation. So if your opinion is that he's bad at chess, then that's an opinion. I mean, you could have the opinion.
Seems bad at chess to me.
You know, that anyone that you think of is, Kasparov is bad at chess. I mean, you could have an opinion that Kasparov is bad at chess if you want. So, I mean, pick your poison. Magnus is bad at chess.
I've never seen a good chess player other than me. I mean, granted, I lose like every chess game that I play, but everybody else is terrible.
Well, that does get into the philosophical question. What does it mean to be a good chess player? Ooh,
Right. And I did say, and I do maintain that I do not believe that people should hire him to teach chess to their children. I don't think that's a good idea. But I'm not sure that that's anything more than an opinion statement either. So we'll see.
As long as you're basing it on publicly disclosed facts, then yeah, it sounds like pure opinion to me.
Yeah, I do like the incited a mob against him, because anyone who's followed my channel for any amount of time realizes very quickly that what I say about people is do not go bother them. Do not talk to them. Don't do anything. So I'll be really curious to find their evidence.
Or here's an idea. Maybe you can research for yourself. And if you think he's a good chess teacher, you can form your own opinion too. What a deep concept. You can come up with your own mindset. Wow.
Yeah, but
If you think he's great, knock yourself out. It's a free country.
I even go the typical extra mile and say, yeah, really, just don't bother anybody, because, that's not what anything's about in the world. But it'll be fun. This will be ridiculous. I would love to see them. They have to overcome 2 privileges to subpoena any information out of me. They have to overcome Minnesota's journalistic shield law, and presumably any contact that I've had regarding Mr. Gordon specifically may be protected by attorney-client privilege. Once I find out who the other parties are. So this is great. I don't know why Ray is the way he is, but he is. The unfortunate thing is I'm not sure I'll be able to collect any attorney's fees for the obvious frivolous litigation.
That is unfortunate.
You think I can go after the lawyer?
Well, the $50,000 does seem like a pretty extreme demand on its own face. So there's that. But
because I can't imagine, like, I don't know Ray Gordon, but based on what I've seen of Ray Gordon, I'd be surprised if $50,000 was a lifetime income achievement for Ray.
I mean, I couldn't speak to that because I don't know the facts that we're referring to, so I couldn't speak to anything factual. But, you know, with respect to, you know, you can rate your opinion based on what's publicly disclosable. So if based on what you see, you think that's a reasonable conclusion, then, you know, that's an opinion. So it should be fine. I'm not explaining anything that this lawyer shouldn't be able to understand. But we'll explain it to them anyway because, you know, reasons.
We're just two guys talking here. You're not giving me legal advice. My own legal advice is
more the point. I'm giving the other attorney legal advice at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what their plan is. I don't know why they would think this is a good idea. It very likely could be just an empty threat, but he is a very litigious person, according to the record. So he may have actual intent on bringing this lawsuit out. Of course, I will fight it to maximum.
I just want you to know, if I get deposed, you know.
Can I represent you in your deposition?
I don't know. Actually, I'd have to think about that logically.
Isn't that that's an interesting question of law, right? Like, if I'm being sued and you're deposed as a party to the suit, can I represent you in your deposition on a suit against me?
I don't know. We could find out. That'd be fun. I mean, you'd have to have a waiver. You'd have to have a waiver of the conflicts of interest, but for the lulz, I'll do it.
What a ridiculous situation. I can't imagine that this is going to, like, right now, I'm just trying to mitigate the level of comedy that's going to actually come out of this, because I think reality dictates that this will probably just fizzle out, but there is the outside possibility that some sort of lunacy occurs. And so, you know, we'll have to see. But I wanted you guys to know that it's the Rayversations episodes, all of which are still, those were before I started moving videos to the other channel. They're all still publicly available on this stream or on this channel. So you can go and watch the Rayversations. I'm going to have to make a playlist to help with discovery. So you can actually go watch the Rayversations episodes back if you want to see just what caliber of man is suing me. He's a writer of many books. They started as horse gambling advice and then moved to the other type of horse gambling, which is pickup artistry. And now he teaches chess. So should be fun. But
does he combine that? Does he combine like the pickup artistry and the chess as metaphors? That could be interesting.
I thought you were going to say the pickup artistry and the horse gambling, and I was going to be very confused as to where you were going with that. But no, I hope not, because he teaches chess to children, allegedly. That's his claim. So I would hope that the pickup artistry has nothing to do with that. I don't have any information about that at all, by the way. You know, nothing there. I think that Ray is just a crazy man. Of some stripe. I don't think he's particularly dangerous in that area. But yeah. So, you know, just so you know,
it's an interesting career progression. How do you go from those subjects? Yeah,
I don't know how they're interrelated at all. Maybe I have to buy his books and find out.
Well, horses are a piece on the chessboard. So we got that going for us.
Right.
So if we can somehow get a 2 spaces forward, 1 space to the right analogy in the pickup industry, we can get all 3 of these things at the same time.
I got it. A horse is representative of a knight, which is typically mounted, right?
Mm.
What is the goal of pickup artistry? Mounting. So
it's workable.
That's how it goes right there.
And you need to move deviously like a pickup artist. You can't just move in a straight line or on a diagonal. You got to jump pieces. It's workable. We'll workshop it later.
Okay, so the next question I have for you. Right before the stream started, I saw on Keemstar's Twitter, there was a video going on, and I was watching it, and I think you were watching a few minutes of it too. Is that correct?
Oh yeah.
This is the famous YouTuber EDP445, who has somewhere around 2 million subs, or did. I don't know how long that's gonna last. Had somewhere around 2 million subs. Was soliciting no, I shouldn't say soliciting. That's a legal term of art. Was communicating with inappropriately a 13-year-old girl.
Was it in fact 13 or someone posing as 13?
That I don't know. I think it was in fact 13. Does anybody
based on my very limited thing, it looked like someone posing as 13, but
yeah. I'm not sure if they were posing or if it was in fact. If anybody in the chat knows what was going on, they could fill us in there. But this is allegedly not the first time that he's been engaged in such activity. Posing is okay. It was someone posing. Now, interestingly, there is an intent, an intent or attempted, I should say, attempted solicitation is a crime. Depending on if the posed 13-year-old was across state lines, we have real problems for him at that point.
Yeah, so where we break in the Mann Act and we get the feds involved. Fun times.
Where does anybody know if this is across state lines? In the chat.
It would help in particular if he was aware of that. That would be helpful in particular.
Yeah. I mean, the guy is out there on video just singing to everything he did. Like, that video was, I'm like lawyer cringing. Why are you doing this? Why are you answering these questions? You have no obligation to answer these questions. I mean, I'm glad he did because he seems like a menace. But at the same time, like, why would you say this? Why? These are just two random people.
Here's a pro tip. If you believe the person you're talking to is 13-year-old, maybe don't try to solicit them. That might be a good thing.
Yeah. Also, don't threaten to tie them up, throw them in your car, and bring them to your basement. That doesn't.
Which, if across state lines, is a different violation.
Yeah,
it's not the Mann Act. It's something else.
It's the you're gonna find a Mann Act. You know what? Yeah. Oh, by the way, I think Selwyn, if I pronounced your name wrong, said Dankula had a video up on it, but it was just clips. No, the full video did drop today. The full video is out now. They have released the full video. That was it premiered right before the stream started. It's about 40 minutes long. So I'm not going to watch it today. Maybe I'll cover it tomorrow. Should be very funny. It's
Hobbs Act, I think. Since it finally popped in my brain, I think it's Hobbs Act at that point. Sorry. Continue.
Yeah, that's the kidnapping across state line.
Yeah. So the solicitation is Mann Act. The kidnapping is Hobbs Act, I think. Yeah. So federal law for fun. Yay.
Yeah.
Sorry, continue.
Don't do it. My legal advice is, if there's a 13-year-old in any DM that you have that you are not like the parent of, run for the hills. Do not talk to them. Don't do anything. No jokes. Nothing funny, nothing real. You just say, hi, please direct me to your parent so I can block you forever. That's all you should ever say and nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the full video is 55 minutes, 56 seconds. I think I got to do that tomorrow. We got to do that thing. Okay, so the other thing I was thinking about doing today, and if you want to do this, because there's not too much to say about Ray Gordon. The guy is really, really mad that I said he was bad at chess. He's really, really mad because he thinks I represent someone that is opposed to him in some sort of lawsuit. The funny thing is he has never actually asked me if I represent any particular party. He's just accused me of representing them. So I don't know who it is. I have a suspicion that it's Encyclopedia Dramatica, but I don't know that. So he's really mad that I allegedly represent Encyclopedia Dramatica, but he's so mad that he's never asked me about that directly, to which I could actually answer him. So I don't know, though. But because of that, he is now suing me. He first sent a whole bunch of ridiculous direct messages to me on Twitter and on Instagram, and then he has now threatened litigation through his lawyer, which I assume that's going to be a fun discussion with the lawyer. It should be good.
Well, when the complaint drops, I'll be more than happy to cover it.
Me too. I'll be covering it every step of the way. But my next thing was, you heard about this, I assume. Susan Wojcicki, the CEO of YouTube, she received an award.
Who was the award issued by?
Some company funded by YouTube.
Whoa. So you're saying that YouTube issued an award and they issued it to the CEO of YouTube? What an amazing coincidence. I'm sure it was a completely fair and objective decision.
So she did an interview about the Free Expression Award, and I was going to watch it. It's like 10 minutes. You game for that?
I'm in. This might be entertaining.
Okay, let me find it real
Flash
quick.
depressing.
This is where free expression goes to die, with thunderous applause, right? Free expression, Susan. Is this the one? Oh, here, this is perfect. This is from the Freedom Forum. Let me get this pulled up. I'm going to move the chat back over to the other window here for everyone to see. And we'll pull this up. Share screen. Share audio. Go share. Got it.
That actually worked. Amazing.
Yeah. I'm figuring this out. No, now I can full screen over here, so it's not ridiculous. Oh, baby. We're figuring this thing out. Unstoppable at this point. Okay.
Maybe they'll stop calling you a boomer now.
No, they better not. Oh, there were a couple super chats real quick that I want to make sure and hit because I love money. Richard Pierce says, Nick, I'm planning to sue you for defamation because you called me an asshole once. I will sue you as I am not literally a sphincter, but I am willing to settle out of court for a 6-pack of Busch Light. You name the location, buddy, and I'll bring it to you. Well, I won't bring it to you, actually. You have to come and get it. Ace Brain 2003 says, you should hire Eric Nelson as your lawyer. After all, you did say you would hire him if you ever needed representation. Lol. I said for criminal offense. If I had a criminal offense in Minnesota, I would hire him. I don't know that I want him for my ridiculous civil complaint from Ray Gordon, which will which I don't intend to spend any money on at all. Like, why? Oh, it's gonna be so stupid. My dad messages me today, right? And he says, hey, is your getting sued actually a big deal? And I said, no, this guy's insane. This guy's just a lunatic. Don't worry about it. But he's like, okay, good. So I was worried. But so it's nice to have a dad who worries about me, I guess. Okay, here we go. So this is the Free Expression Awards highlight. Susan Wojcicki.
I'm so excited to be here tonight to present Susan Wojcicki with the Free Expression Award.
Wojcicki.
As the CEO of YouTube, Susan is facing some of the most critical issues around free expression today. When billions of people are on your platform every day, how do you make sure that everybody has a voice but also feels safe?
By banning everybody. Ban it all.
Everyone has a voice, but everyone feels safe. I note an immediate tension with the Free Expression Awards.
It's
because free expression by itself would only seem to imply one half of that equation.
Right. It's
everyone
impossible.
Have a voice.
It's impossible to call free expression the idea that everyone would feel safe, because the adage is no one needs acceptable speech to be protected. It's
Yes.
really easy to approve all approved speech. It's really hard to allow speech that is uncomfortable. So that's good. I don't know who this chick is, by the way. They labeled her as a YouTube creator, whatever that means. So YouTube hired a bunch of YouTube creators to do these interviews or something, I guess. I don't know how that works. So this will be...
Do you feel safe, Nick? Do you feel safe?
I feel unsafe. Susan likes to reach out and touch me with community guideline strikes that I disagree with vehemently. Let's go next. Here we go.
And how do you do that across the versions of YouTube that exist in 100 different countries and 80 different languages? These questions are important to me because YouTube is where I found my voice.
I'm sure she has a very dangerous voice with very, very hard to protect expressions. What do you think? Just based on looking at her, do you think she is out there issuing wrong think left and right? I know I think that.
Well, I won't make a conclusion based on her appearance, but I will make a conclusion based on the fact that she's the host of this video. So, yes, there's that.
I judge all books by their cover.
Ah.
Don't you? I bought a book based on its cover. Do you want to?
Sure.
The front of it is very boring and plain, but it was this part of the cover that made me laugh. The male hormone.
Isn't that testosterone?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
it is a book published in 1945 about treating weak men with testosterone and making them better men.
There you go.
Oh God, the audiobook is coming, y'all. I'll be self-producing it and putting it up on Locals in chapters. It should be fun. Okay, back to this thing. But literally I have bought several books based on their covers. I got into Warhammer based on the cover of the Eisenhorn Omnibus book. I looked at it. I was like, that looks cool as shit. And I picked it up and started reading it. I got into YouTube based on a book cover. I bought The Alphabet of Manliness by Maddox, which was a picture of a man punching a gorilla with a boxing glove on. And I looked at that book cover and I said, this looks funny. And I opened it and I read the first couple pages and then I bought it. And then I listened to Biggest Problem and then Maddox sued Dick. And then I started covering YouTube. All of that was based on a book cover. Always judge books by their covers, y'all. If I didn't do that, I would be a very sad man right now.
You might not be able to tell by looking at me, but I'm blind. I lost the majority of my vision when I was 14, and that year it felt like my life was falling apart.
I don't know how looking at her would show me she's
Until I found a group of
blind.
girls online who loved beauty and fashion as much as I do.
Wait, you're
When
blind.
I no longer had friends in real life to turn to, I found these online creators to turn to, and they felt like my friends.
Yeah, that is a point. I mean, I honestly want to know the answer to this because I don't know off the top, but a blind person liking fashion, how exactly does that? I'm confused.
I'm not getting it. I don't understand. I'm so confused. And people are pointing out that she's reading a prompter right now, or at least it appears that way based on her eye movements. Someone said she has 2,000 followers on Twitter. Did anyone check out her channel? Like, how big is her YouTube channel?
Yeah, so she said she was losing her sight, so she's legally blind. What's the definition for legally blind? Is it 20 over 400? I forget.
It's something like that. It's actually surprisingly low. My mom is legally blind, but has corrective contacts that make her able to see just fine.
Okay, well, there you go.
So I don't know. Like blindness isn't even real anymore, right? Like we can agree on that. Blind people are all lying. Like the stick is a lie.
No, what are you talking about?
I'm joking. But legal blindness is really not that hot. Like it's correctable. Because I know
in some cases, maybe, I guess.
Yeah, because I know someone who is legally blind, but with their contacts they have 20/20 vision. So Like, I mean, my mom can't run around saying I'm blind. That'd be ridiculous.
Apparently she can.
Fine. I mean, I guess.
So if is she legally allowed to drive? How's that work?
Yeah,
I don't even know legally.
Her vision is perfect. Like with her contacts or glasses,
Okay.
she sees just fine.
Okay. All right. That's all right. Let's carry on with the video.
Yeah. Someone said she does have 150,000 Instagram followers. Life on easy mode. Okay, here we go.
I knew that one day I wanted to be able to build that same sense of community for other people around the world who felt like they didn't fit in. And 6 years ago, that's what I did. Now, every single day, I get to share my story and advocate for a world that's more accessible for everyone.
Oh, she sounds like a
YouTube
peach.
gave me that opportunity, and every day, YouTube gives people the opportunity to express themselves and the freedom to feel like they have somewhere that they belong. The freedom that YouTube gave me is so important to me, and I'm so grateful. And that's why I feel honored to introduce to you Susan Wojcicki, the CEO of YouTube. She's been called one of the most powerful women in technology today, but for creators around the world, we just know her as Susan. Let's take a look at her work.
I want to draw attention to the like to dislike ratio on this video. I just want to point out that it is 74 likes. That's a strong showing for 60,000 views. To 17,000 dislikes.
1,700.
No, it's 17K. 17,000.
Oh, I thought there was a point in there. I'm sorry. You're right. 17,000. My mistake.
17,000. Holy God, that's good interactivity, even on a 60,000 view video. That's good interactivity by itself. I mean, the average would be 6,000 to likes and dislikes combined. You get about a 10% hit on likes versus views. So to have an almost 3 times, so an almost 30% ratio is amazing. They did good with this video. I know a lot of creators who don't feel welcome on YouTube, though, so that it's very odd to me that this is their subject. All right.
Susan Wojcicki is shaping the way that over 1 billion people access the media.
She is unquestionably one of the most powerful media executives on the planet.
She can come on my channel.
Never been easier
I'll interview
to create.
Susan.
It's never been easier to watch. And so we think about ourselves as a platform for the next generation of media companies to be able to create content and to distribute it to the world.
The vocal lift at the end of all of her expressions is really annoying, and I kind of hate it a lot.
But at least she doesn't have fry.
It's 18,000 now, apparently. So rolled over.
And I also really care deeply about the freedom of expression.
Oh.
And the fact that people all over the world can use it to tell their story.
Are you a feminist or a womanist?
I don't even know the difference. Do I want to know the difference? Do you know the difference? What is a womanist?
They look at this. Look at this backdrop. You go, let's talk about free expression. And your first is, are you a feminist or a womanist? Next to that is Lily Singh. In the middle is a large black woman. On the top right is a Muslim woman. On the top middle is a woman of color saying no offense with a C, so she's obviously from the Empire. I don't even know what Chokchanta is, but something Hispanic about COVID based on the little germs floating around. The bottom right is a German heart, so I guess maybe that one's based in Red Pill, because maybe that's a Nazi channel. I can't figure that out. The It Gets Better project, which is about keeping gay people from dying, and then I don't know who Molly Burke is. This is the free expression, though. It's literally just the same exact people over and over and over again.
When we're saying free expression, we have a very narrow domain in which that free expression applies. So it's free expression within this domain.
You're free to talk if you're a large woman of color. That's what I've learned so far from the video. Oh, God. Okay.
Well, it gets better, Nick, so let's play on.
It does. It does get better, and that's why I need to live through the night.
Question a lot of black women.
The rundown, the 101 on the language of the blind.
It's incredibly important that we have a responsibility framework, and that has been my #1 priority. We're removing content that violates our policies.
Free expression. Free expression award.
We're removing content. Just I wish Memology would do a video that just said free expression award and just play that clip. We're removing content and and then show her getting the award. Like maybe a Photoshop of my favorite Photoshop of all time is Obama giving himself the presidential medal. Like, just do that with Susan, right? Giving herself the award. That'd be the end. I'll have to text Memology. Please do this video. It's perfect. If I knew how to edit video, I would do it, and I would be Memology 102. God. Here we go.
You can go too far, and that can become censorship. And so we have been working really hard to figure out what's the right way to balance responsibility with freedom of speech.
Wait. All right. Okay. I just want to start with, I don't even, okay. You can go too far, and that is censorship, which necessarily implies if you don't go too far, it's not censorship. So even though you're restricting stuff, it only becomes censorship if you cross the too far line, whatever that is. How convenient. So there's that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I just don't. I don't know.
And we want to balance the expression with safety and policy. Free expression award. I was just going to keep saying it because it's funny as hell.
I know. And not a hint of irony in the video. That's the best part. Like, yeah, how do we ban the maximum amount of people without transgressing into censorship? Like, we wouldn't want to be censorious, but we have to figure out how to ban the most amount of people without being censorious as possible.
Are you sure that's pronounced transgressing and not transgressing?
Oh God. It's fluid gressing, I guess. Mongo5817 says, I thought my life was bad when I got West Nile, but then I found a guy making it his goal to tag you in an SEO as blackface lawyer. Made me feel a lot better about the things going on in my life. Enjoy my money, you scum, lol. It's true. That's exactly how my life has gone.
Okay, in before the word transgressing itself becomes a transgression and a microaggression, right? Because it's somehow offensive to trans people because it includes the word trans.
Should it be?
It'll happen.
Should it be Z-gressing, like XE-gressing? Like what should be gender neutral? I think. I don't know.
Cross-gressing. No, wait, that's worse.
Gressing X, like Latin X, but gressing.
Gressing with an edge. Gressing with an edge. There you go.
Overton Windex says, lost 75% of my vision, multiple areas in my field of view, 4 years ago, full black, cortical blindness. But the bits I can see, it's 20/20. Blindness can mean a billion things. Therefore, when someone says they are, it means nothing. Thanks for the info, man. That sounds wild. Niku Yasha says, would have loved to see Gail in that background. Yes, Gail Cord Schuler should have been in that 3x3 grid. Okay, let's keep going. God, I hate the vocal lift at the end of her sentences. It drives me nuts.
Susan's also helping to reimagine and reshape what's possible for women around the world.
Ever since Susan started running on YouTube.
And they've got Chief Woman Sundar Pichai, CEO of Google. Perfect. The best woman.
The percentage of women in YouTube has increased significantly. Representation matters.
If women do not participate in tech, They're losing the chance to influence the largest economic and social shift of this century. We realize we have really broad reach, and we want to make sure that we, as a platform, are using it for good. I know I can make it better, and that's why I'm here.
You have eyes like you want to say something about that comment.
I want to say something about all the things, but yeah, we want to use the free expression for good. So, good free expression.
You know who else
So
wanted
good
to
time.
use things for good?
Yeah.
Ich
Yeah.
wein mein Leben. He had lots of good plans.
I'd like to point out that speech that was in line with German policy was well accepted at the time. So yeah, there's that.
All approved speech is approved. Goebbels.
Yeah.
Get the book.
Susan, I'm so honored to be able to present you tonight with a free expression award for your incredible leadership with YouTube. And I just want to say,
Do they have echo going on at the Freedom Forum? Like they can't fix the echo problem. I hear echo in her thing.
Well, they haven't sound treated her room, so we know it's real. I guess they got that going on for us. Although the prop background, I mean, what room is this in with the cactus and leaves? What is this thing? What's going on this shelf? Also, why does the shelf have a model of the cactus that's on the floor? What's up with that?
It's okay. She
I
can't
have
see the shelf, Kurt. She can't see the shelf.
I have cactus related questions.
She can't see the shelf. She doesn't even know it's there. Oh God. Okay. Whew. Here we go.
thank you for all the work that you've done to empower people around the world to share their story. And I'm thrilled to be able to ask you some questions about your perspective on free expression.
Thank you, Molly. Thank you so much for being here and joining me here tonight.
People with books in the background are lame.
Now, I know that your passion for free speech has been in part impacted due to your family's history. Can you share how your family's experience has shaped your ideas of free speech?
Okay, hold on. I don't know anything about Susan Wojcicki except that she's Polish. Are we about to hear the plight of the Polish family under the Hitler and the Iron Curtain?
Yeah, what do we want to take an over-under on the God winning it here?
Like that, we're going to hear about that unironically, and they're going to ignore the fact that they employ the exact same approved speech policies. Oh, no.
Sure. Well, so on both sides of my family, they came to the United States because of the need or different kinds of persecution. On my father's side, it was due to political persecution. My father came from Poland, and for a variety of reasons, after World War II, it became important for them to leave. And my father escaped from Poland and wound up coming to the United States. And my grandfather was never able to leave. He remained in Poland and was behind the Iron Curtain. And I saw how difficult it was to communicate with him, to be able to worry about what you were saying to him and for him.
Worry about what you're saying to him?
Yep.
Difficult to communicate with him because you're worried about what you say. If you're worried about what you say, it might be difficult to communicate.
There are 2 subjects on YouTube right now that I literally can't even talk about, no matter the opinion that I have.
Ooh. Do I know what these subjects are? I probably don't off the top of my head.
Of course they are. No, you do. They're COVID and the 2020 election. And it legitimately does not matter what opinion you have, because even if you were to criticize a wrong opinion about either of those subjects, you are disseminating information that is contrary to the acceptable policies of YouTube. Those two subjects are so verboten right now that it's not even funny that I'm using verboten. You cannot talk about them with any amount of credibility. You can't cover news stories on them. You can't talk about them, even if you have the quote unquote right opinion. That's how censorious they've gotten. And to hear her talking about the plight of the Iron Curtain controlling communication is so silly. It's just ridiculous. Speedy 1993 says, the amount of hypocrisy and irony in this award is the best joke I have heard in the last few years. Lol, a close second is Jussie Smollett. Okay, we have to press on.
For him to have concerns about what was said or what was even sent to him. And then on my mother's side, they came to the United States for religious persecution. And so I've just seen the real benefits that freedom of speech has, as well as representing all people of all different backgrounds and all different perspectives. And that the freedoms we have, we really can't take for granted, that we really have to make sure that we're protecting them in every way possible. And I feel, because of my family history, a deep connection to those freedoms. And I'm very thankful for the freedoms that I have.
All
Absolutely,
different perspectives.
as we all should be.
All of them.
Now, when I started on YouTube,
I love the absolute throwaway response that this soulless husk of a host has. Absolutely, as we all should have. Now, when I started on YouTube, there's like, they could have recorded this at 2 separate times. We wouldn't even know. There was no engagement to that answer.
I was trying to determine whether or not she was reading her answers or not.
Yeah,
I'm sure she knew the questions in advance. I'm sure she prepped. I was trying to determine whether or not she was literally reading them. Couldn't make that determination.
Phantasmagorical says, I'm wearing 3.25 strength reading glasses with my right eye closed, squinting my left eye while holding my phone an inch from my face. Shut up, Nick. I guess it could be worse. This is a $5 super chat, right? Love you, my dude. Yeah, that was $5. Absolutely. Hey, look, I love blind people. It's a weird.
Some of my best friends are blind people.
Look, I got lots of blind friends. I just put a cutout of me far away, and they think I'm hanging out with them. No, it's this person is. It's just weird to like identify yourself as blind, and yet talk about beauty and fashion, how YouTube's giving you a community, and then be reading a prompter of some sort. It rings as weird to me. It rings as weird. Here we go.
all I really wanted to do was just be authentic and share my story. But of course, as I've grown, there's been more pressure to speak for others in my community. And with that becomes a lot of responsibility. And I know at YouTube, you guys are always juggling responsibility at such a high level, always needing to try to balance people's right to free speech with protecting our community from content that can be harmful. So can you talk to us a little about that?
Ooh.
Any predictions on the answer?
I'm looking forward to the cognitive dissonance and doublespeak, but yeah, let's see what we got.
Look, we have to balance the right to free speech with the responsibility to protect the community from said speech. Oh boy.
Which community?
The blind leading the blind.
Very cute. Like that.
Sure. Well, first of all, we want to be able to have as diverse and open a platform as possible and represent as many views as possible on the platform. But we also need to make sure that there are limits and that we can see that some.
Go on.
I'm just saying, but I just, yeah.
Yeah, the but
That's
was,
all I'd say.
We also need to make sure that there are limits. Why do you need to make sure that there are limits? That's actually not a need that any right has involved in it at all.
Why do you need to make sure that there's limits in particular when we need to value all perspectives, which I'd like to remind you yourself said about 30 seconds ago.
It's a weird thing. Now, in the exploration of a right, you may find a limit, right? Like that's a possibility. my right to free movement ends at your lawn, for example. I can't just freely walk into your house without permission. However, it's not necessary that there are limits on the right. It just happens to be that there are because they conflict with someone else's. Like, my right to swing a hammer is limited if someone walks into the arc of the swing. But that's not a necessary limitation. If I'm alone in a room that is completely locked and no one can come in, I can swing the hammer around as much as I want. There's not a necessity to explore the limits of a right. And some rights don't have limits. Like, your right to avoid cruel and unusual punishment doesn't have a limit. Like, that's one of those rights that Joe Biden talked about. No amendment is absolute. That one is. Like, your freedom to avoid cruel and unusual punishment is absolute. And if any punishment is determined to be cruel and unusual, you are absolutely free from it, no matter who you are or what you've done. It doesn't matter if you murdered an entire village of children. If you are guaranteed to be free from cruel and unusual punishment, that's an absolute right. And there is no limit to that. There's no necessity to find the limit to that. We've determined it to be true. Frustrating. Okay, here we go.
Times that we've always, since the very beginning of YouTube, have had community guidelines, because we've realized that there's certain types of content, like some in the very beginning, we wouldn't allow adult content.
What happened to that one? You changed that one, though, because I could go watch nude yoga right now and in the thumbnail stare so far into a woman's vagina that I can see her tonsils. She's sitting there, spread eagle, holding her legs out with her lady bits right in the thumbnail. That's on YouTube right now. It's called nude yoga or whatever. So what happened to the not allowing the adult content? That one changed, I guess, for the better. But hate content, that was not actually gone from the original YouTube. That's been a recent addition. Sorry.
Hate content, dangerous content, all of those types of content could really make it that YouTube was no longer a platform that was viable for all these other voices out there. And so
Why?
we've always had community.
Yeah, that's a good question. How is it not viable? Like, if you have, let's say you have your live leak, for example, and you have a bunch of videos of people getting chewed up by industrial equipment. How does that make it so you can't have a kitten video?
Yeah, it's not inherently obvious how anyone else being able to express their viewpoint inherently prevents anyone else from being able to express their viewpoint. So it's not inherently obvious. So, yeah.
I don't get it. By the way, I do know the exact title of the video because we talked about it on Yellow Flash's show. Listen, I'm not going to watch degenerate nude yoga on YouTube. I'm going to just go watch actual the fun nude yoga on a different website that is dedicated to it if I'm going to do that. Like, I'm not going to sit around on YouTube scrambling for barely admissible porn. That's not necessary in the digital age of 2021. You just go find the real stuff. But it is just funny because we spent a whole show on Yellow Flash talking about how people get around YouTube's adult content stuff. So Texas Red says, you can watch two gay guys right now playing dildo or real penis, where they shove those things in another person's place where the sun don't shine.
Really?
Good job, Susan. Yes. Now, you don't actually see the penetrative act, but it is two gay guys. The one guy, he's like there in front of a cesarean section screen behind him, and he's just laying down, and there's a guy behind him, and he doesn't know if the guy is inserting an adult toy into his anus or an adult's non-toy into his anus.
Okay.
That's on YouTube. And they have that channel has all sorts of very adult content.
You don't say.
But it doesn't show the actual content. Like, so there's no, it's all just kind of off. It's not off screen, but it's obscured. So you don't actually see any sexual organ contact. But but it's not even age restricted. Like,
oh, that's nice detail.
I hope it's on YouTube Kids. I'll make a YouTube Kids account and just check. That'd be good. Trent Michael says, chat, go look up anal bleaching with Alexis Monroe and tell me adult content doesn't exist on YouTube. Okay, here we go.
Guidelines. But as YouTube has become bigger and has had more of an impact, we've seen the need to increase what we're doing from a responsibility standpoint. And this has been an area of increasing importance for us as we have certainly gotten bigger. And we call this whole work the responsibility work. And
does that not sound like a communist plan?
There's something about the phrase responsibility work that is particularly ominous. I can't quite place it, but there's something about that phraseology that is
maybe not communist, but like totalitarians always have great names for their projects. Like, oh, it's the 5-year plan, comrade, or whatever it may be. The Responsibility Project sounds horrifying to me. Like if Nicolas Maduro came out tomorrow and announced the Responsibility Project of Venezuela, the U.S. might send planes. Like it's that terrifying.
We actually talk about the 4 R's of responsibility. It involves literally thousands of people and a large amount of work across the entire company. But if I sum it into these 4 different R's, the first one would be remove, which is that we're always updating.
Not while I'm drinking. Come on.
Free Expression Award.
The Free Expression Award. The first R is remove. You can't make that up. Like, you can't give a better answer than that. Oh, I love this. Let's see what the other 3 R's are.
Our policies, and when content is violative of any of the policies, unfortunately, we need to remove it. And so we removed 9 million videos last quarter.
9 million.
No, I got to go back. When they say, unfortunately, we need to remove it because of your policy. It's your policy. If you really believe it's unfortunate that you have to remove it, it's easy. You're the CEO of YouTube. You can fix this tomorrow. Just change the policy. Then it won't be unfortunate anymore. Then you won't have to do it. Just change it. Why aren't you doing it right now? If you truly believe it's unfortunate that you have to remove it due to your policy, seems like there's an easy fix to me.
Hold on, I'm tweeting this right now. So Susan Wojcicki, the CEO of YouTube, when talking about her Free Expression Award.
There's not enough scare quotes for that in the world.
Mentions the, quote, 4 R's. The first R is remove. And I'm dead. I'm gonna link this video in there too. Oh, this is too perfect. The first R is remove. I'm never gonna recover from that. Like, how is that that's our go-to right there. That's the first one. All right. Which
is unfortunate. Hello, it's the first one.
We removed, unfortunately, we removed 9 million videos last quarter. I bet people, like your average person walking down the street, if you ask them how many videos were on YouTube, would have a number somewhere close to 9 million as their answer. Like, just not a YouTube aficionado. You're just walking out of like a Denny's or whatever, and you're like, hey, by the way, Mike, how many videos are on YouTube total? I don't know, like 10, 12 million, something like that. I think that is a real answer that they might give. But they have no idea that they removed that number just last quarter.
Yeah, not anymore. There isn't, Mike. You're all
Actually, Mike, let me be real with you. There's about 1 million left. Evil Bunny says that's 100,000 a day. All right, here we go.
And almost all of them, over 90%, we remove with machines, which is good because it means if there's content that's violative, we find that really quickly.
It's good that we use machines to do it rather than people. That makes it better. It's good that there was no human review involved to determine if nuance or sarcasm existed. It was all done by machines. That's a good thing.
And the second one is raise. So being able to raise up authoritative information. So, for example, in the pandemic.
Listen, comrade, all approved content is approved. All approved content is approved. If you don't have approved content, it's not approved. But all approved content is approved, and we will promote approved content. Oh my God. This is real. Like, this is an actual thing that happened. Like, this is a parody that I would write right now. Like, this exact script is...
You wish you could. You couldn't generate it this way.
No, I couldn't. But if I'm saying, if you gave me 1 million monkeys with 1 million typewriters, this is the Shakespeare I would ask them to produce. Okay, let's see what's next.
We served hundreds of billions of impressions that came from different health organizations, like whether it was the CDC or the equivalent in countries all over the world, and making sure that people get information from the right medical sources in the case of COVID, or news from authoritative sources. So we're working to make sure that we can raise up the information that is valuable for our users.
There you go. By the way, if you wonder why every COVID video that wasn't from approved media got absolutely buried, that's it. They just said it. Their mission is to literally raise up authoritative sources. And authority is simply New York Times, LA Times, CNN, Reuters, Associated Press. That's the approved sources. That's it.
Not the Washington Post, though. They're bad.
Right. Not WAPO. WAPO sounds racist to me against Italians. Is it? Is the Washington Post run by Italians?
Yeah. I was going to try to make a WAP joke in there somewhere, but I couldn't quite make it work.
Yeah. Too much ziti, I guess. Here we go.
And then, there's a lot of content that technically meets the spirit of what we're trying to do, but it's borderline. And so for that content,
wait a second. No, that doesn't even make sense.
Just reduce, meaning
we just reduce.
No, wait. I don't understand. I understand, because listen to the little word she said. It's meeting the spirit. She didn't say letter. She said it's meeting the spirit of our rules, yet we're reducing it. That's a very strange thing to say, because if it's meeting the spirit of why you're trying to do, why aren't you raising it up? Because it's what you're looking for.
Because you're misunderstanding.
She is the complete wrong word choice.
She is saying it meets the spirit of free expression. She's not talking about it meeting the spirit of the authoritative sources. It's discussion about the same topic as the authoritative sources, and it meets the spirit of free expression. Therefore, they must reduce it. This is the wrong think about the right subject.
I don't think I can maintain that much cognitive dissonance for that to make sense. That might be too much for my brain to handle at this time.
You're going to have to trust me, because I am the Domino's delivery guy who has just brought you 5 pizzas that you didn't order and just said, no, they're already paid for. And you go, you know what? That's cool. Thank you. Right? That's who I am right now, is the guy bringing you the 5 pizzas that you didn't pay for and you don't need to pay for ever. And I say, it'll be okay. And you go, all right.
Are the pizzas poison?
No, they're good pizzas.
Okay.
They're good pizza. It's like someone listened to like a Christian radio station. They're like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to call up Domino's. I'm going to give them a random address, and I'm going to pay for the pizzas over the phone. And I'll just be a blessing to someone. And you are the recipient of the blessing. That's what I've done for you just now. Hashtag Jesus-like, hashtag godly.
Thanks.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Normally you don't get to thank people, so this is a fortunate day. So here we go.
We're not going to recommend it to our users. It's still on the platform, but it's content that is not necessarily recommended by our platform. And the last one is reward, which is that we have a higher standard for where we serve our advertising dollars. And
oh, I do like that though. That's very honest though.
It's very
like we're trying
honest.
to satisfy the advertisers.
It's very honest. You know what? My James O'Keefe video, or no, not my James O'Keefe video. My Chauvin video that I did yesterday has a huge CPM on it. Over $16 CPM.
That's great.
Yeah, I want them to promote it though. Like that's what I want. I want to be the right authoritative news source, but I don't think I'll ever, because like if they just gave
you were a Minnesota lawyer, so you're more qualified than most people talking about this thing. Like, it's even in your backyard.
I know.
It's your bar.
I think they should promote the video. It was a pretty good video. I think they should promote it. It should get 1 million views, and I should just go buy a Lamborghini tomorrow. But no, Susan doesn't think I'm authoritative. Instead, they're going to quote CNN, who can't read sentencing guidelines. Here we go.
And that has many reasons. We want to, we want to do the right thing for our advertisers, and they care a lot where their ads show up. But we also want to protect creators like you who have built businesses with really, really valuable content, and make sure that that we don't have a situation where advertisers pull their spend because there's some content on it that they're not comfortable with. So we want to make sure we're protecting all the valuable creators like you. So.
Look, it's so patronizing.
I'd ask which sense of the word she means valuable in, but I already know the answer, so it's pointless.
Yeah, I just love the patronizing tone. Oh, could you do like super good content or whatever? It's like so valuable and stuff to the community. It's like, great. I'm glad that you do it or whatever. I've never heard of you. Like, you can just hear it, right? Like, she's never watched this person's channel. She has no idea. She probably got a primer on this person coming to this meeting in this preset room. And they're like, by the way, Susan, this chick's blind. Don't be weirded out if she was looking off in like 12 different directions. And she hosts a channel that has like 8 people watching. So she does beauty or something. I don't know. Talk about makeup, maybe. Linda Marie says, WTF kinda using a disabled person for virtue signaling BS is this? As her subscriber, Marley Burke is a sweetheart, has a guide dog, and can see some shiny things. Molly probably feels like she has a water gun to her head, scared for her channel. Oh, so Linda Marie is actually a subscriber of Molly Burke, says she's a nice person. So I'll take it. I'll take it. I have nothing bad to say about Molly Burke, but it is kind of, this video is a mess. Is a mess. Don't you dare say it's primer and not primer. It's primer to me. What do you say? Do you say primer or primer?
I actually kind of alternate between them, to be honest.
Primer
is probably more dominant.
I don't like primer because it sounds like there should be a double M to get primer. Nothing. I just got like a shrug.
Okay.
Okay, sounds good. All right, we're getting there.
So those are the 4 R's of responsibility that we think about as we are, as YouTube is growing and we're continuing to invest. And it's been a huge priority for me at YouTube to make sure that we are balancing the openness of YouTube, but also the responsibility.
That's fantastic. I think all of those are very valuable steps that YouTube has taken. And I'm curious to hear.
I seriously don't even get the impression that she has engaged in this interview at all. Like, I literally believe that they could have recorded these at 2 completely different times.
I think you're probably right. I think the blind woman's stuff is absolutely scripted. I'm not 100% sure about Susan's. But they might not have wanted to script it so that it seemed a little bit more natural. But yeah, the idea that every line the blind woman is reading is scripted, I mean, it has to be because it's so generic and banal. There's no way it's spontaneous.
It's unrelated to what she just said in any way. It's the most generic. Absolutely. Like, I've done that. I've done that on interviews where I've been like drinking too heavily and I get distracted by the chat and the person talked for like 45 seconds and I pieced out at like 15. I don't like to do that, but sometimes it happens. Like, your attention.
What's it like? What's it like being too drunk during an interview? I don't know anything like that.
Never heard of it. Never heard of it. Definitely didn't throw up that day. Yeah, that's how this feels. It feels like, and I don't think that she's just not paying attention to Susan. It's too short of an interview for that. I think she literally recorded her segments and they spliced in Susan's answers.
Yeah, that sounds right.
There we go.
How you feel free speech plays out on YouTube with creativity.
Well,
As if she didn't know the question was coming.
yeah, first of all, I think that YouTube has really enabled a lot more creativity. And I think it's amazing we have creators like you on the platform, and that we can hear from you from different perspectives that we probably wouldn't have heard with traditional media. And I also just look over my lifetime.
Are we, like, I don't know Molly Burke, and this is not a slight against her, but are we to believe that somehow traditional media would not come up with the idea to have a blind person's perspective on beauty and fashion? Like, a conventionally attractive, youngish, blind woman who doesn't not like the type of blind where their eyes are going in different directions. There's no obvious, like, and I don't mean that in a degrading way, but there are blind people who you can look at them externally and say they appear to be blind based on some sort of physical ailment that they have. And then there are blind people who you can't tell. She doesn't look conventionally blind. She's I'm not saying that she's the prettiest person on earth, but she's not ugly or anything like that. Are we to believe that mainstream media wouldn't come up with this idea? How is she some sort of risky voice for YouTube or some sort of unique flower that YouTube found in the desert? This is exactly what I would expect from an offshoot cable news station. Like, it's not surprising to me in the slightest that content is something that would exist in mainstream media at all. Heck, she could probably be a regular contributor on like CNN's fashion or whatever. Whoever has a fashion reporter at all, I would not be surprised to have someone like her in the exact same situation show up on one of those channels. I would go, oh, okay, that makes sense. Like, that doesn't seem like a unique voice to me. Ninebreaker2 says, she keeps saying creators like you without saying her name or what she does. Did they have multiple creators record this and just pick the one that they liked most? Very possible. Very, very possible she has no idea. Because I think we've surmised that she may not even be talking to her at all. That this is not a live conversation. This is two people in front of cameras. One of them has a script and the other one has a list of questions.
That's a good point, Nick. I'm so glad you made it.
No, you can't say Nick. You'd have to say, thank you, guest. I really appreciate your insight on this topic. I'm so glad YouTube has made a place for people like you to be here.
Yes.
Here we go.
So when I was a kid, I remember there were just, I don't know, not that many channels. Probably less than 100 at the most.
It's okay. The whole the number of channels thing is getting funnier and funnier as my generation gets older. I guess as our generation gets older, because our grandparents would be like, we didn't even have TVs, and when we did, there was one channel that never came in. Except when the president talked and I liked FDR. And then we moved to now where there weren't that many channels. There were maybe 100 or it's that. That's not very many.
What time frame are we talking about here?
I don't even know. Susan looks like she's maybe 45, right?
I mean, when she was a kid, I mean, even when I was a kid, I don't think there were that many channels, and she's 5 years older than me. So I think.
Let me see how old she is. Oh, she's 52.
Oh yeah, there's no way that that's true. She's 12
Yeah.
years older than me. I mean, even when I was a kid, there weren't hundreds of channels. When she was a kid, yeah. Where are you talking about, Susan? What you talking about, woman?
Maybe 100. There were when she was a kid, there were probably maybe 20 at the most, probably less, depending on where she was. You know, only if she's in a major metro area is she going to get anywhere north of 10.
Yeah.
So. Oh my God. Okay, let's.
Channels, and maybe when I was a teenager, there were a couple hundred.
No.
And now with YouTube, we have millions and millions of channels, and that has just unleashed a huge number of different.
So she was born in 68. She's a teenager through 86. I was a kid.
That doesn't sound right at all.
Not my math. My math is right? 68 plus 18 is 86.
Oh, that wasn't what I meant. I meant what she said. I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah. In 86, I remember 86, there was not 100 channels. I think like 60. There's that song that came out, 57 channels and nothing's on, right? Like,
yeah, 57 channels and nothing's on.
Right. That's like late 70s, and I think that was predictive of how many channels we might have at the time. So, this is complete. No, she's just nonsense.
Different views and perspectives, and we can hear from people that we never would have heard from beforehand.
Absolutely. Thank you, Susan, for chatting with me, and congrats on your very well-deserved award.
Thank you so much to the Freedom Forum for having me here today and for this award. I recognize the significance of freedom of speech, and I'm so honored to be here today to receive this award.
I believed it. She said it with all of the heart she could muster, that she was so honored today to be here to receive this award. Thank you to the Freedom Forum and creator, and in brackets creator, for talking with me. That was completely a fake interview. I'll say it definitively. Susan has never talked to this poor person at all.
Yeah, you're right.
By the way, Susan, if you want to counter that, you are welcome to come on my channel, and we'll record at the same time live. We'll just do it. We'll do it live.
Do it live.
I would love it. That would make me so happy to have Susan on the channel. I could ask her all the questions like, why you ban me, bro?
Well, Nick, here's 8,000 reasons why. Where do you want to start?
Yeah, actually, I probably don't want Susan on the channel, because if I were to invite her, they'd pre-screen it. They'd be like, okay, what's all of his other content? Oh my God, ban. He's gone. Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, with that said, that's the end of the lunacy.
Okay.
That we've got. So, I'm going to read chats. Let's see here. Exit the full screen. Bring this thing back over. Do you want to hang out for me reading chats or nah?
No, I'll pass.
Yeah, I figured you mentioned earlier that you were kind of tired already, so.
Yeah, I'll pass, but it's been fun, Nick, as always.
Yeah, man, thanks for coming on. I appreciate your thoughts on the Chauvin thing, of course, and your jovial and friendly nature as we went through the other topics, which were just a Cold War era nightmare. That's fine.
Yeah, all right. I'll talk to you later, man.
All right, buddy. Have a good night.
Bye.
Peace. Okay. So now I've got this completely weird screen set up, but we're going to keep it because I think fixing it would be more of a mess. The reason my screen is so weird today is because I wasn't, I hadn't planned on inviting anyone to the show. And then Kurt said he'd be interested in coming on. But when you create a stream in YouTube, you can't then create a stream in StreamYard and attach it to the existing stream. StreamYard, creates a new stream. So I had to get Kurt as a guest, but I couldn't use Google Meet because we had to share video. So what I did was I set up a StreamYard room, which Kurt could be in, that I could share video with him, and we could discuss the video, and then I just screen grabbed that into OBS. It's a bunch of a mess. It's a bunch of the mess. So that's why we've got the weird setup. And yeah, I totally believe that Susan still has no idea who conducted the interview. Still has no idea. So there you go. And I already know I'm going to get DMs about an OBS plugin that would allow me to do this, but I haven't. I've barely sat at my computer in the past 2 weeks, other than while recording and streaming. I just haven't had time to set anything up like that. My overlay still has Patreon and stuff listed on it, even though I don't want to promote those at all. It's just because I haven't had time to tell my artist that I want, different overlays and explain what they are. So, it's all a mess. Everything about this is a mess. And there's never enough time in any given day, that's a good problem to have. I'm just too busy to do it. Is it okay for the URL to be showing? Sure, because if a bunch of people tried to join it, I wouldn't let them in anyway. So, yeah. Okay, 1K drink coming up. I'll do it. Thank you for helping me reach 1,000 likes on 2 out of 3 streams today. The second stream, I did not expect to reach 1,000 likes. I didn't expect the second stream to break 1,000 viewers, and we did, so that was awesome. It was a good stream, though. If you missed it, it's already up on the archive channel. It was an interview with Vox Day about the Owen Benjamin versus Patreon lawsuit, which continues to be a very interesting topic. I wish there was more that could be released publicly about it, because I'm imagining there's a lot of really crazy stuff going on. But Vox is pretty candid about it today. And I know a lot of people don't like Vox Day, and that's fine. You don't have to like Vox Day at all. Don't care if you do. Don't care if you don't. Doesn't matter to me. However, the topic of his and Owen Benjamin's pursuit of Patreon is still very interesting and has major ramifications for everybody involved in those sort of things. Okay. That being said, let's drink this Bunhanabin. I am not a big fan. As we go on, this particular scotch, I don't really like it at all. I'm not a fan. Not good. Okay. Let's do the chats here. And then we'll wrap up the show. There is we're going to do some video games tonight over on Twitch, much to my chagrin. We've got video games over on Twitch. A lot of people have joined, as you can maybe read here. I don't know if it's big enough, but the screen name is a lot of people, so that's very good. We will be doing video games over on Twitch tonight. It's a game night. Tomorrow night is My Cousin Vinny. I think Drex will be joining me for the show tomorrow, so that should be a disaster. I can't wait to hang out with him, talk to him about some of this stuff. Yeah, we'll see what's going on. I'm gonna try and get a video out tomorrow, but I also, I have to take a very dangerous and perilous trip into the Twin Cities tomorrow. So we'll see how that goes as well. So that'll be fun. It's not Risk of Rain, Angry Baneling. You can calm your lady parts. Okay. Where are we on the chats? Oh my goodness. Samurai Zenji. This was before the stream, but he says, here's the rest of $10. Don't know what Chessmaster Ray is doing this for. Lol. Also, reminder, Demi Lovato ran away from a Froyo restaurant because it reminded her of how fat she is. That's funny. That's good. Night of Hope says, hey, Kurt, how's it going, buddy? Good to see you again. Going to be interesting to get your takes tonight. Oh, and Nick, go F yourself. Just teasing. Anthony James says, Chauvin was declared guilty because he drew his futa without balls. That's a death-worthy offense. Bad Dragonite says, to be honest, the way historically to make riots stop is to make rioters afraid to riot. I particularly like the Korean approach. Bad Dragonite also says, there are actually some quotes already from the jurors. The Star Tribune put out an article yesterday blasting out details about said jurors. A couple of them said they had seen the video or heard of the case. One said, I'm black and my life matters. Good Logic is a boomer. Says, hey, Nick, is it possible to tell Good Logic, the boomer, about Streamlabs donations? As for Super Chat questions, he says to type in Super Chat. He wants to have YouTube Super Chat. Tell him that YouTube takes 30% of chats. Okay, on the YouTube 30% of chats thing, on that, while it is true that YouTube takes 30% of chats and Streamlabs exists as a viable alternative, and I love both of them, there is probably something to the in-platform usage of monetization and the promotion of channels. So I don't know if that's a thing, but in theory, it'd be great if everybody donated through Streamlabs. But I don't know what intangible effect there is either. But yeah, if the I'll tell him about Streamlabs and how to get them set up, just in case he wants to collect some cash. Architect of Fate says, Mr. Ricada, this is my official payment for your legal consultation, requesting actual legal advice. Should I pay my taxes? That should make this and every stream I participated in privileged, correct? No, it's not privileged because it's being broadcast to more than you and me. You should always pay your taxes to the maximum that you owe. That's what you should do. Marty Lund says, look out, it's a real law firm with a dead website, an abandoned Facebook, and a narrow, unrelated practice. I guess they failed to cash in on the gold rush of suing for dead priests on claims late by a couple of decades without evidence. Nick's doomed. Yeah. I think the call tomorrow might be pretty interesting. Night of Hope says, Susan, you fantastic, miserable bitch. You had the audacity, the gall, the unmitigated bird brains to gaslight our society by calling your censorship a defense of freedom. You can bend down, turn it around, twist back sideways, and blow me, you Stalinist. Catch you next Tuesday, otherwise known as a cunt. Wow, that was very strong words from Night of Hope against Susan. Bad Dragonite says, did you happen to see the tweet I mentioned the other day with you, Hoglaw, and Hikamori, the guy who broke the story on the PlayStation defects? He said he'd like to come on under the condition that you say, Daddy, no, at least once. Really? I don't know if I saw the tweet. I'll go look for it. St. Floyd says, yo, Nick and Uncivil's Laws. I'd just be chilling into afterlife with Abraham Lincoln's. We'sa be talking about D time he went and hung all D engines and having a good laugh. And I'sa be chilling with Thomas Hefferson because he'sa went blacks and never went backs. That was from St. Floyd, already beatified. Night of Hope says, this girl fits in fine. What is she fucking complaining about? She didn't need YouTube to fit in. I don't believe her. The disease of isolation and insecurity she had was psychosomatic. Nobody excluded her. She just wasn't dealing with her life properly. Dumbass says there are DMs of EDP445 regarding the allegations, and since it occurred over the internet doesn't mean it crossed the state lines, hence the feds are involved. Sort of. I think technically they have to be in different states physically located for the feds to be involved in that act, even though the communication is technically automatically federal because all internet communication is presumed to leave the state and return. I think the specifics of the act are that the two parties are located in different state lines and that the solicitation or the travel occurs and crosses the state lines. But I don't know. Gerard Garvin says, why couldn't they get any free speech YouTube ladies that were hot? I mean, are there any? Can you name some? I don't know. Night of Hope says her boyfriend, as a goof, has been putting cactuses all around her house at different places, seeing if she'll eventually run into one of them. Since her vision is apparently pretty good, he keeps adding more cactuses out of confusion for why the gag isn't working. Bad Dragonite says, I love how the two uniting factors for people today are, one, Pelosi thanking Floyd for dying was stupid, and two, YouTube's free speech being an absolute joke. Dungeon Master says, you know which voice to do? You love blind people? Do you love blind people? I'm asking you about blind people. Do you love blind people? Do you love blind people? Wow. HP Lefty says Susan needs to use a gamer word. I agree. That'd be good. Next, Kaiser TV says smart cops already resigned. Average cops resigned today. One's left can't tell the difference between a pistol and a taser. We're all screwed. Jonathan Sweet says, accused of harassment at work was denying the right thing. Yes. No witnesses. I think all will say they didn't hear nothing. Didn't do it. She don't like me. Yeah, denying is the right thing. Denying is the only answer today. Admitting anything is to admit everything. CJ says, how fun would it be if a juror gave an interview and actually said they voted to convict just because they were afraid of mobs and riots? Oh, that'd be great. That'd be great. They should definitely capitalize on that if that happens. Niku Yasha says, does watching my ball python kill and eat count as degenerate? Yes. Martin, having a ball python counts too. Martin says, how was the prosecution allowed multiple witnesses to testify to the same thing? As you mentioned, around cause of death, but also on use of force, etc. They can use their case in chief to call any relevant witness with relevant information. If it gets excessive, the other party can object. Matt Field says, I served on a first-degree jury. I was a good boy and didn't look up any media at all. It was so hard to not look up stuff until after the trial. It's tough, man. Stega says posing, but he admitted to other real ones. That's the weird pedo on YouTube. DJ Hesselhoff says, teaching chess to kids, huh? Sounds like something a boy lover would do. Fire up the wood chipper. Oh my goodness. Wolfgang Deo says, is Chauvin really guilty? Can ask here, not IRL. I mean, he is guilty according to the jury of his peers. So yes, you can disagree with that, their assessment, but under the law, he's guilty according to the jury. So Jackson Kai says, YouTube awarding themselves a Freedom of Expression Award is like Stalin giving himself a medal for feeding the poor. Mr. Squiggles says she identifies as blind. Dalacourt says, wait, there was a shelf behind her? Yes. Apache Chief says, all I got from this was Susan gives herself an award and it is presented to her by current day Helen Keller and her cactus collection. Wick Dipper says, is Susan saying that her family had to run from the Yahtzee-hating commies after World War II? Half of her family. The other half was for religious reasons. You can draw your own conclusions on that one. Timothy Reaper says, just be glad you didn't mock Ray Gordon during the drinking contest stream. Otherwise, you could be charged with felony murder. R.I.P. Kurt. Chris Gutierrez says, there used to be a music video labeled as a documentary that degenerated into a gay porno. Errant Cognition says she's doing damage control. She needs to emphasize that YouTube is not a place for free expression to keep out the bad people. Aussie says blind chick is reading Braille. You can actually notice her hands and pupils moving. Seems to be reading prompter, but it's Braille. There you go. Very cool. Phantasmagorical says you misspelled dead in your tweet, and I'm the blind one. Oh no, that was intentional. D-E-D is the comedy dead. I'm sure you meant to do that. I did. Skullgar Thane says, don't look at gift rackets in the schnoz. Phantasmagorical says, my bad, I'm not just blind, I'm a boomer. Now I'm dead. DED. There you go. Furby Slayer says, notice they repeatedly pound the term platform instead of YouTube. Do the look when you find everyone's favorite blind girl is part of Hitler's youth. No. Rolana 1 says the 4 R's: remove, reduce, reprogram, repeat. Pretty close. Remove, raise, reduce, and I don't remember the last one. Snuggle Struggle says, did Susan expose her dad for being a propagandist for Goebbels, who fled to America and was hiding until Susan needed to milk some virtue as an oppressed white international tribunal, perhaps? Rolana 1 says, we need Ty Beard's take on this video. The gray one says, I'll be, I never known they could stack excrement that high. Gee, golly, gee, that award's sus to me. Oh, the last one was reward. That's right. Thank you. Shadow Goff says YouTube is 16 years old. Watch out, YouTube. That pedo streamer is going to come find you. Speedy 1993 says, so I paid all my taxes and got a random audit. Here's to waiting 2 more months to get my refund. Thank you, bureaucrat system of bull. I actually got audited for my 2017 taxes and got that resolved just a little bit ago, like just a month ago. It was a mess because I mailed them everything they wanted, and I knew that I mailed it to them, but I didn't know when they would actually get it because the IRS is so backed up. I tried calling them several times, sat on hold for 3-4 hours before they closed, and still didn't get a person. So that was great. It was fun being audited by the IRS. I love it. F says, hey, Nick, I haven't been here. Who the hell is Susan and why? And what's up with this getting sued? Susan is Susan Wojcicki, the CEO of YouTube. Apparently, I've been threatened to be sued by a guy named Ray Gordon, who's an absolute idiot, who's bad at chess and thinks he's going to sue me for a bunch of nonsense. And that's fun. Not applicable sent cactus, and some eyes. A long story short says, Nick, you forgot to say insert name here. Yes. All right. That's the show tonight. That's it. Thank you guys so much for joining all of the streams today. This is a very, very heavy streaming day. But we had the unexpected Chauvin trial result. So that needed to be live streamed, I think, and that was great. Had 8,000 people watching that live stream. It was nuts. May someone get a major jury decision every single day? I'd be a happy man. But that being said, it's time for game night now on Twitch. Come over and join me. I'll be there in just a minute. Thanks for watching tonight, guys. Until tomorrow, peace. Peace.
Oh, he drinks a fair bit, but you realize that it just helps get his noggin jogging along. With his glass by his side and his kids asleep tight, we'll hear some law-splaining tonight. With his microphone muted, we'll laugh at this boomer until he explains it's all part of the plan. Watch his face become redder as he becomes meta, raging at idiots from Twitterland. From the white shores of Maine to the hills of Glenlivet, there's no one who explains the law better than Nick. So pour out a glass for the ones who have passed to make the law what we have now. Oh, his lady is fair, and she handles herself with the grace of one who has borne many children. As the wife of a lawman, she makes sure that he has the time and the place to provide for them there. So pour out an ardbeg, a bow, more of the frog. The spirits flow as the ones who get unemployed. So pour out a glass for the tea post on Twitter as we hear law-splaining tonight. From the white shores of Nam to the hills of Glenlivet, there's no one who explains the law better than Nick. So pour out a glass for the ones who have passed to make the law what we are now. Oh, the guests are all plenty folks from Dundee to Drexel. They bring their perspective and spice to the mix. But the reason we're here and the one that we cheer is the one who is showcasing us his career. Spirits flow as the ones who get unemployed. So pour out a glass for the tea. Post on Twitter as we hear Lost Blaming tonight. From the wide shores of Nan to the hills of Glenlivet, there's no one who explains the thought better than Nick. So pour out a glass for the ones who have passed to make the law what we have.